All right, hi, welcome to the Fantasy Six Pack Network. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. We're going to be talking some New York Giants football and whether or not Malik Nabers is actually healthy enough to start week one. To do that, we've got Nick Filato from the Big Blue Banter podcast here to help us. What's going on today, man?
Joe, thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well. And on that Malik Nabers point, if we just want to dive right into the meat and the potatoes of why I'm on this podcast, he returned to practice today.
All right, hey, I love it.
Positive sign. He was running in individual drills. I mean, it was back tightness was the reason why he was out. I believe that's what it was, reported by Jordan Ronan, if I'm not mistaken, of ESPN. So he was at practice. Andrew Thomas was at practice, and that is putting a smile on many Giant fans' faces.
Yes, it is. We'll just dive right into that, I guess. Then, switch up the questions a little bit. That's cool. No big deal. I can go on the fly. So, he wasn't practicing as of late, but with him being out those days and weeks, who had stepped up and become like the guy at receiver?
Yeah, so the Giants at training camp, it's been interesting because Malik Nabers is the catalyst of the New York Giants offense. He's going to see a lot of targets. Again, he's going to receive a ton of attention from opposing defenses because he is a superstar. And that's the way it's going to work for the New York Giants, Russell Wilson, Jaxson Dart, whoever really it is. But when it comes to who's been receiving the reps at practice, Darius Slayton has been healthy, but he hasn't been receiving a full complement of reps. I believe the New York Giants have been really trying to figure out the back end of their wide receiver room, giving guys like little Jordan Humphrey and Bo Collins a lot of first team reps to see how they can handle that against the Paulson and the Debos and the Tay Banks and the Cordell Flotts of the world. So with that said, it's pretty obvious that little Jordan Humphrey and Bo Collins shouldn't be playing too much of 11 personnel once the regular season rolls around. So it makes it a little bit difficult to evaluate from that perspective pertaining to your question. But Jalen Hyatt also dealt with some injuries as well, and he's been slowly being ingratiated back into the fold, and he did catch a 21-yard comeback route in the preseason game with the first team, and Russell Wilson. Wan'Dale Robinson, though, has been somebody the Giants have been aligning all over the place, trying to hit him vertically as well. Trying to get him involved in a vertical manner, much to I would say to adequate success. Because the thing about Wan'Dale is he has a 0 percentile arm length and wingspan, like 0. Like he has the worst arm length and wingspan out of any wide receiver who has ever played football in the National Football League. So that requires the quarterback to be incredibly precise with his ball placement. So he's going to have his role in 11 personnel operating out of the slot for sure. He had I think like 91 catches last year, if I'm not mistaken. It was a lot more than people really expected, and people see it, they're like, oh shit. But he just didn't really do all that much with him because Daniel Jones is I'm not going to throw deep. I'm going to check it down underneath type of quarterback. Russell Wilson is a much more explosive arm and wants to target deep if he has a one-on-one matchup or an advantageous matchup, which Mike Kafka really schemed up a few of those well against the New York Jets in the preseason game. But to finally circle back and answer your question, if I had to identify somebody that is not Malik Nabers, who is going to be receiving a lot of targets and opportunity, I think I would like to isolate Darius Slayton in the deep part of the field because Darius Slayton can win with his speed, and Russell Wilson will throw those moon balls deep. Wan'Dale underneath, and then Theo Johnson. I think Theo Johnson, and I don't want to step on future questions. I'm sure you're going to ask about him, but Theo Johnson is a player, and I think the running backs will be involved too because Russell Wilson is very inclined to set hike, look. Okay, the safeties are rotating in a manner that's eliminating what I want to do deep. My first read is gone. I don't necessarily see the middle of the field as clearly as I would like because I'm 5'10". I know that check down is there. Let me just take that check down if it's 1st and 10 or 2nd and 8 and try to live to fight on 3rd and 4 and 3rd and 2. And that's what Russell Wilson has done a lot recently, and even good dating back to his time with the Seattle Seahawks. But Theo Johnson is a player, and I know I'm jumping around a lot here, Joe.
No, you're good.
But Theo Johnson is a player that I think that I know the Giants love in the building, not just for his blocking, but also for his receiving upside. And I think if you're drafting tight ends, if you're punting tight ends, he's one of the dart throws that I would certainly look to bring in the fold. He's going to play like 80% of the snaps, and he has vertical ability, and the Giants love scheming shit around the line of scrimmage for him too. Sorry if I'm not allowed to swear.
Okay, every now and then we're good. So you've mentioned a lot about Russell Wilson, and clearly it sounds like he's going to be the guy to start the season. I think everybody's sort of assumed that since the day he signed. How has the chemistry looked between him and the receivers? Is it off here and there? I know he struggled, the last couple of seasons with accuracy here and there too. So how has it all looked with him?
I'd say he's a stabilizing factor in the wide receiver, or in the offense in general, and that's something that I can attribute a lot of quotes from Malik Nabers, Jalen Hyatt, and a lot of the younger wide receivers saying, like, I don't understand how Russell Wilson knew what the defense was doing in this training camp practice. I thought they were in this, and he knew they were in that, and he was right. Like, Malik Nabers had a quote earlier in camp that was very similar to what I just said. So I would say he's a stabilizing factor. Now, when it comes to his accuracy, I do think he's probably lost a few RPMs on his arm.
Mm-hmm.
He still can hit the moon ball, as we saw against the Jets. That was a beautiful pass to Bo Collins. That will always be in his repertoire, or at least it is right now. But when it comes to, okay, I'm far hash, I got to rip this outside the numbers, I don't think the ball gets there as quickly as it used to for Russell Wilson. Not that Russell Wilson ever really had a pure howitzer, but I think it might have slowed down just a little bit. He also missed Jalen Hyatt on a and this could be also a Jalen Hyatt issue, but watching the tape, I think maybe Russ just missed it, even though it was a catchable ball, just by a slight overthrow. Throughout training camp, I would say that his accuracy has been average to above average, but there's still some throws that he's not pinpoint on. I think a lot of that is just him getting used to throwing to guys like Jalen Hyatt, and a lot of the Giants receivers have been out through training camp, or they've had their reps managed and limited. Guys like Darius Slayton, who are going to be playing a lot of snaps once the season rolls around.
And then when, if ever, are we expecting Jaxson Dart to make his first start this season?
Yeah. So I think that there's a lot of variables that can lead to this in a lot of different situations and circumstances that can place Jaxson Dart in the starting lineup. One being Russell Wilson falls flat on his face and the Giants offense is scoring 17, 18, 19 points a game, and they need that jolt of energy. Then I think Jaxson Dart, if Brian Daboll believes he's ready, will put Jaxson Dart out there. And Brian Daboll loves Jaxson Dart. Like, you see him in training camp, Joe. He is just praising him every time he does something well. He's hyped up for Jaxson Dart. I think we do see Jaxson Dart this season, unless Russell Wilson lights up the NFL, which I don't necessarily envision happening. I could see the Giants being a competitive team, even. Like, it's not even like the Giants are just getting their rear ends kicked, right? And they're like 1-6, and then Jaxson Dart comes in or whatever, right? Like, I could see them being a 500 type of team, but their offense is holding them back. Because if you look, the offense and the defense, they're married together when it comes to everything football, including fantasy football. The most exciting parts of the Giants overall team is their pass rush, right? So if the Giants offense can just put their defense in a situation to where they can pin their ears back, give their defense leads so their defense can pin their ears back and get the opposing quarterback, then that's the recipe to, I think, maximize wins for this current roster. I'm not sold that Russell Wilson can do that. So if it's like week 5 and that hasn't necessarily been the case, Brian Daboll thinks, I can go to Dart. I trust Dart. He can handle this playbook. We can grow. And then they could just turn that page on Russell Wilson. I can see that happening, but a lot of that is contingent on Russell falling flat on his face. So that really would be the crux or the impetus to all of that transpiring.
Yeah. I mean, he started off hot at Pittsburgh last year and then fell flat on his face, but they didn't have anybody else to go to. They didn't want to go back to field. So it's kind of what it was. Let's jump up here to the running back room. Very interesting room for fantasy. So Skattebo's been banged up in camp, hasn't really been practicing either. Tyrone Tracy, has he solidified himself as the RB1 in his absence? Like, he's going to be the guy, especially early on. And then when Cam is in, a little second part question here, when Cam Skattebo is back into the mix fully, how much of a split do you see between these two?
Yeah, I'm very curious on how this is going to start. So another note, Cam Skattebo actually returned to practice again today as well, along with Malik Nabers and Andrew Thomas. Yeah, so that is excellent.
What a day to do this one.
What a day. Now the last, exactly. And this is Tuesday, August 19th. The last time Cam Skattebo returned from an injury, he re-aggravated his hamstring injury and he left. So I'm hoping that it's all well and good. And if that's the case, I think you'll receive limited work in week 1. And he'll just slowly get ramped up. What I noticed through training camp is Cam Skattebo's just receiving skills. Now, Tyrone Tracy Jr. is a former wide receiver. We hear a lot about that. And he's a good receiving back, but maybe maybe leaves a little bit to be desired just because you're going into it thinking he's this former wide receiver, which he is. But I think he's advanced so much with the nuances of playing running back that's what impresses me most about Tyrone Tracy Jr. When it comes to Cam Skattebo, I think he's an actual weapon as a receiver. He's very smart on how to uncover zone coverages. He's athletic enough. He gets lost behind the line of scrimmage, and he's athletic enough to outrun linebackers and safeties on these horizontal or vertical breaking routes. So I remain very high on Cam Skattebo as a receiver. Tyrone Tracy Jr., we know he can do that as well. If I had to choose the number one, it's Tyrone Tracy Jr. right now, because Cam Skattebo missed all that time. And I would say it was Tyrone Tracy Jr., even if Cam Skattebo didn't miss all that time, but it might have been like a 1A, 1B type of scenario.
Okay.
I don't want to put I'm trying to set an over-under for Tyrone Tracy Jr., Joe, right? Like, what's the over-under of his carries per game, right? I think a lot of this would depend on the game script. Mike Kafka is the play caller now for the Giants. Now, obviously, we don't have Saquon Barkley, but if you go back to that 2022 season, the last time Mike Kafka, presumably, we don't really know. There's a lot of conjecture with 2023. The last time Mike Kafka was a full-time play caller for this team was 2022, and the Giants were winning games with Daniel Jones as their quarterback, sometimes by throwing the ball 40 times, other times by giving Saquon Barkley 35 carries like he did against the Houston Texans. So I think a lot of the game planning, it really just depends on how the game script is going, how the defense is playing, and what the defense can stop. Because Mike Kafka has proven, like, hey, if they can't stop the run, we will just give the football off. I'm not so I play fantasy football. I love fantasy football. I don't cover fantasy football as you do, Joe. But Tyrone Tracy Jr. is somebody who I still think has a upside. Where does he go? What's his ADP right now? I should probably lay that out.
I want to say it's probably somewhere in round 7, 8.
So is that dead zone?
Yeah, kind of. It's
okay.
down there. It's like RB0 territory. Like, you waited.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if you did want to go with the approach, and you can please disagree with me here if you like, because this is my domain. But if you went with a zero running back approach, if it's like a 3 wide receiver league, and you just want somebody who has the opportunity to get like 15 touches a little bit later on in the draft, Tyrone Tracy Jr. could fit that, and he will catch passes, and they will dial up screens. And the Giants' screen game has been on point recently, which it has not been for the last 5-6 years. They seem to be operating much more as a unit when it comes to the screen game in general. Another annoying thing, though, is I think Devin Singletary will have a role early on in the season. He might get phased out as the season goes along. If Cam Skattebo if Cam Skattebo develops and proves that he is competent and capable, then I think that could fade away with Singletary, who also had some fumbling issues last year. That's the one thing about this Giants running back room, and Dable has zero tolerance for this kind of stuff. All 3 of them put the football on the ground.
Yeah.
And I think Skattebo could steal the goal line touches from Tyrone Tracy Jr. because Tyrone Tracy Jr. struggled last year getting it into the end zone like he did. He fumbled the one ball. I can't remember exactly what game it was. And that was and then they bring in Scat, and Scat is a much lower runner, somebody who runs behind his pads, gets very low at the point of contact, excellent contact bounce, something to monitor. This is one of the reasons why Tyrone Tracy Jr. is a running back one getting drafted so late. At least that's what I have to imagine. So it's not a perfect situation, but it's one that I'm willing to bet on the talent. And I also just, by watching the All-22, Joe, I can just see that this kid is, he's a smart runner, and he's developing in that area, and the Giants do like him. They didn't draft Cam Skattebo because they have something against Tyrone Tracy Jr.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's not even that because he's got limitations, Tracy. It's because they drafted Skattebo, and I think everybody expects a somewhat of a pretty large split between these two, and it's still sort of an unknown as to who's going to end up being the lead guy down the stretch, and that's what matters. You want them to be there in the playoffs, and yeah, he's got an ADP around 88, so yeah, pretty much spot on with the round numbers there. So, you mentioned Theo Johnson. Let's go back to this one. Give a little more detail as to why you think he's going to have a big role in this offense.
First off, like, you talk to anybody in the Giants building, they love him. They love Theo Johnson. They were so happy that they got him at the beginning, at the top of at the 3rd day of the draft. I mean, his RAS score and the athletic profile is one thing, but it's also that he's a 6'5", 270-pound tight end who will block his rear end off. He's huge. He's gigantic. And last year, he had no idea what he was doing. I remember he went on a podcast with John Schmelk in training camp. So he's a rookie. Tight ends usually take a little bit to get comfortable in the NFL. And he said, learning the Giants playbook is like drinking water out of a fire hose, right? Because Brian Dable's offense is very tough. But despite that, they were putting him out there week 1, week 2, playing over Daniel Bellinger and some of the other guys, playing like 75, 80% of the snaps. And I'm a film guy, right? So I'm watching the tape and I'm seeing like he didn't know what he was supposed to do on this route. He didn't know what he was, but they were still playing him because they just wanted him to get up to speed. And then he ended up suffering the foot injury and missed the rest of the year. He's been healthy all throughout OTAs, minicamp, and training camp. He's ready to go. And if you watch, there's so much work for him underneath over the middle of the field to the flat. They're running him on deep corner routes. He connected with a Jaxson Dart. He played a second team rep with Jaxson Dart just to connect on a 35-yard sail concept in the first Jets joint practice when the offense was really sputtering and not doing anything well. And he's also a seam threat because he's such a large target. So if you want to play too high against Malik Nabers, you have that seam open. He can just run up that seam, outrun the Mike linebacker in like a Tampa 2 type of coverage. And he has a massive catch radius to just climb that proverbial ladder and pluck the football out of the air. So I do think, again, if you're punting on tight end, he is a high upside, second-year tight end. The guys love him in the building. And the Giants, I mean, he could – I don't want to say he's a second target because I think that's maybe putting the cart before the horse, but he could be the second target in this offense with Russell Wilson at the helm and maybe even with Jaxson Dart. I do like with, I think both Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson will have their respective roles, and I'm not trying to devalue that. And Wan'Dale might end up being the second target ultimately. But again, you're looking for upside. I think Theo Johnson at that point of the draft has a ton of upside. And if you did draft 2 tight ends and had somebody else, that's just like a nice one to kind of keep around, see what his role is in week 1 against the Washington Commanders, and then evaluate from there.
Yeah. My dynasty team likes to hear that when I've got Theo Johnson stashed there. So, all right, I like to finish off here with this question for everybody who comes on, and it's who's a player in camp that you've heard or seen going a little under the radar? Your casual fans, fantasy managers, may not know this name as well, but has performed well so far, and that we should keep in our back pocket.
Yeah, so I wouldn't advocate for any of these guys
Sure.
and for fantasy, obviously. But if you're talking about like a really deep league, and if it's like a deep best ball, I mean, like Dante Turbo Miller is a player, and look, he's on the fringes of the 53 right now. So this is the type of individual that I'm referencing. But he is a running back. If you're looking at a deep league, maybe a deep dynasty league, who I think the Giants want to be on the roster because they're giving him every opportunity to earn the spot. A bunch of work in the preseason. Somebody who is who they're using as a gunner. This is a running back, right? So they're using him as a gunner on punt, because I really think they want him to seize the role. They're also using him as a kick returner. The reason why I bring him up is he just offers something different. And that's like, I would say elite explosiveness. Whereas I don't think Tyrone Tracy Jr. has that. I think he's an explosive player, but not necessarily elite in that regard. And I could see him having, like, maybe if he does crack the 53, 1 or 2 plays designed for him a game. Maybe it's just going to be 1, see what happens. But he has that type of lightning quickness where he could be gone. Now, again, for a redraft, don't even pay attention to what I'm saying. This is like really deep type of stuff. If there's another player who might earn a role, but like I just don't find some of the other guys to be all that exciting. Like Bo Collins, the UDFA out of Notre Dame, who I think the Giants also want to make the team. I just don't know what his role would be in an 11 personnel package. I think he would need an injury to Darius Slayton or Malik Nabers, knock on wood. Geez, hopefully neither of those happen. And then I think most of your listeners probably know who Darius Slayton is. Best ball. Right. He can catch a moon ball from Russell Wilson, and that's all he'll need. And he'll probably see his 5 to 6 targets a game, which could certainly yield value because he's a great run after the catch guy if you give him an alley to do so.
Yeah, I mean, people know who Darius Slayton is, but he's like the forgotten man. Like nobody drafts him anymore. But yeah, I mean, he could have some sneaky value. So glad to hear that he's actually like still doing pretty well there with everything going on. So all right, Nick.
Signed him, man.
Yeah.
They just re-signed him. Like Darius Slayton, sorry to cut you off, but Darius Slayton is this kind of guy who, like, I love Darius Slayton, right? He's somebody the Giants drafted in the 3rd day, came in, balled with Daniel Jones in 2019. He was with multiple coaching staffs. This new coaching staff came in 2022, and Darius Slayton was the guy who was on the outs. It's like, oh, Darius Slayton's going to get cut. Week 1, he didn't have a role. Week 2, he didn't have a role. He started getting involved week 3. he was one of those guys. Like, he's not even going to make the final 53 after leading the Giants in receiving over the last 3 years. He proved himself to this new coaching staff back in 2022, and then he was the most important receiver the Giants had up until they drafted Malik Nabers. So
Right.
there's a lot of resilience there with Darius Slayton. He never goes away, and I thought he would leave after this last albatross of a season in 2024, but the Giants decided to retain him. So they obviously love him. He's a leader in the locker room, somebody to not forget in deeper, and especially best ball, but deeper type of formats.
Absolutely. All right. So, well, thank you for coming on, man. This was great information. I know I learned a lot. Hope everybody else did too. Give you a chance before we close out, though, to let everybody know what you got going on this season, where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find myself and Dan Schneier host the podcast Big Blue Banter. We talk everything New York Giants. We really focus. I used to coach football, so we really focus on the film. So we go over the all 22. I have all 22 breakdowns, tell you what the opposing team was attempting to do, what the Giants were attempting to do, and I feel like it's a good time. That's Big Blue Banter podcast. You can find it anywhere, and then I write for Big Blue View and Giants Country as well.
Fantastic.
And you can follow me at Nick Filato.
Yep, absolutely. Everybody should be doing that. I know I hit that follow button not too long ago myself, so make sure you do it too. And if you're still around here, make sure you check out fantasy6pack.net. Become an all-access member. You get the award-winning rankings, the draft cheat sheet, the player projections during the season, DFS and betting content as well. And hit that subscribe button, that like button, and check out the playlist that's popping up right about here. And we'll see you next time.